One thing that unites people all over the globe is the love of ice cream. This delicious frozen treat is enjoyed in various forms all over the world, from the gelato of Italy to the es puter of Indonesia. But the people of the United States are the largest consumers of ice cream in the world, and the average American eats 23 liters of it every year. Many of ice cream's most popular forms are American inventions, and ice cream is a fundamental part of American culinary culture. The origins of ice cream go back, long before the United States even existed, to the ancient world. Ice and snow were prized ingredients in the cuisines of ancient Greece, Rome, Egypt, and China. But ice cream was only made possible by the discovery of the endothermic effect, in which a closed system absorbs thermal energy from its surroundings. By adding salt to a mixture of ice and cream, the melting point of the ice is lowered, drawing heat from the cream, allowing the cream to freeze. This process was first described in the Indian poem Panchatantra in the 4th century A.D. Famed explorer Marco Polo brought ice cream to Italy after encountering it during his visits to China, and the confection spread throughout Europe. Charles I of England thought ice cream was so delicious that he offered his royal ice cream maker a lifetime pension in return for keeping the recipe a secret, so that only the royal family could enjoy it. Luckily, the secret escaped and eventually made its way to England's colonies in the New World. Quaker colonists brought ice cream to America, where it's mentioned in print as early as 1744. America's first president, George Washington, was such a lover of the treat that he spent $200 on it in the summer of 1790 alone. Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson also regularly ate ice cream and served it to their guests. In the 18th century, ice cream was an expensive indulgence, available only to those who had an ice house. But it became inexpensive in the 19th century when sellers began to import ice from northern countries. Jacob Fussell of Baltimore, Maryland, was the first to manufacture ice cream on a large scale in the U.S. Fussell was a seller of dairy products, and when he found himself with a surplus of cream, he decided to build an ice cream factory in Pennsylvania in 1851. His business expanded, and he opened factories in several other cities. The mass production of ice cream increased its popularity and lowered its cost. A German engineer named Carl von Linde invented industrial refrigeration in the 1870s, thus eliminating the need to use natural ice. And when the continuous process freezer was invented in 1926, ice cream production became a modern industry.
Ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream.
The popularity and availability of ice cream greatly increased in America throughout the 20th century, especially after cheap refrigeration became common. Ice cream sellers began to compete to offer a greater variety of flavors than their rivals. Howard Johnson's restaurant chain boasted a world of 28 flavors, while their competition, Baskin-Robbins, advertised 31, a flavor for every day of the month. In the 1980s, thicker and creamier varieties of ice cream were created and sold as premium and super premium by brands such as Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry's. The massive popularity of ice cream in the U.S. led to innovations in the way it was served and enjoyed. American Robert Greene invented the ice cream soda in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1874. Greene was selling flavored drinks on a sweltering summer day and ran out of ice. He substituted ice cream from a nearby vendor instead as a way to keep his drinks cool. His invention, the ice cream soda, or float, as it's sometimes known, is a cold beverage that consists of a scoop of ice cream in a mixture of flavored syrup and carbonated water. The ice cream soda became a national craze. Soda shops and soda fountains, manned by soda jerks, proliferated across the U.S. During the Prohibition era, when the sale of alcoholic beverages was illegal in America, these soda shops and fountains helped to replace bars and saloons. Another American ice cream innovation was the invention of the sundae in the 1880s. Several locations in America claim to have invented this combination of ice cream with sauces, syrups, and various toppings. Because of religious laws in many American communities, It was illegal to serve carbonated beverages on the Sabbath, so the sundae was invented as an alternative to the ice cream soda and took its name from the day on which it was most usually served. One of the greatest ice cream innovations wasn't invented in America, but gained worldwide popularity there. Agnes Marshall, an English author of cookbooks who was known as the Queen of Ices, was the first to mention the use of an edible cone as a receptacle for ice cream in 1888. But the ice cream cone didn't gain mass popularity until its introduction in the United States at the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, a World's Fair that took place in St. Louis, Missouri in 1904. In the 20th century, a technical innovation allowed air to be mixed with ice cream by a machine, creating what's known as soft ice cream. This addition of air reduced the cost and allowed the treat to be served directly from a spigot in the machine. Chains such as Dairy Queen and Carvel arose across America to serve the new delicacy. Americans also pioneered the sales of ice cream from refrigerated vans, known as ice cream trucks. To this day, companies such as Good Humor and Mr. Softee have fleets of trucks that drive through neighborhoods dispensing ice cream to happy customers across the country. Ice cream is a delicious treat enjoyed throughout the world, but thanks to the innovations created in the United States, it's achieved a greater popularity here than in any other country. But no matter what you call it or how you eat it, the love of ice cream is something shared by virtually every person on Earth.
Thank you to everyone for joining us today on our program on such an amazing topic as ice cream. I would like to introduce to us today our guest speaker. Her name is Mary Schroeder. Mary is an entrepreneur, and she co-founded China's first dessert company called Happy Cow. Mary took over this initiative after 14 years working for hedge funds and building investment experience in distressed debt and private equity throughout Asia. We're very honored to have her here today and talk with her about her experience and her journey in building this amazing business as called Happy Cow in Hong Kong. I just want to add here that the Hong Kong produced vegan, halal certified and handcrafted ice cream made with coconuts is now sold in major supermarkets, restaurants, airlines, and health food stores throughout Greater China. Mary, thank you so much for being with us today. Welcome. And as we will take all of the questions that we'll get from our audience online, I just want to start off with just saying, what kind of was the spark of making you to quit your day job and start this full-time growing Happy Cow company in Hong Kong?
Thank you, Matilda, and thank you very much for having me. It's really a pleasure. It's always fun to talk about ice cream and entrepreneurial journeys in total. Really, I was inspired by my partners. There's a couple that are American that had really started making this formulation in their kitchen, and I'd heard about it, and they shared the product with me, and they really didn't have sufficient business experience in order to kind of help develop the company. So I was really their partner in that journey and being able to bring it out of their kitchen and into our first small factory. And I would kind of add that, I think that video that you showed is incredibly helpful. We actually didn't know that ice cream came from China originally. So we saw this video, ironically. But I think what the next stage of ice cream development is that what we're seeing is that basically people are looking for products that are also good for them and also feel very indulgent at the same time. And that was one of the main reasons why our company was developed, is that there was not a better for you dessert company in Greater China. People, levels of diabetes are growing, heart disease are growing. And so our product was really addressing, and also people have, a lot of people within the Asian community have difficulty digesting the enzymes in milk. So it's some area of discomfort to full allergy symptoms when they eat milk. So this was really addressing the allergy issues, the cholesterol issues, overall the diabetes issues in the context were much lower sugar product, but all natural. And people really could understand you can read our ingredients, understand what's in there. So I think that's kind of the next stage of development for the industry is looking for better for you products that also you can really trust the ingredients. And that was, why I was really excited to be a part of this journey.
Anything to make anyone with any kind of health problems to be able to enjoy ice cream in any, kind of taste or flavor or what kind of ingredients it has so that it is healthy for everyone. We have questions from our audience, and one of them says, can you describe your business in one word?
I think pioneer is a good one for this in the context of really, particularly in the China context, there was very poor quality, cheap ice cream, and then the internationally imported ice cream, which is very sweet compared to local tastes. And therefore, it was, I think, very pioneering to be able to take the chance of coming out with a product that is less sweet, but is very intense in flavor and still feels very indulgent and have very good success within our community, and to very much adapt to local tastes, include green tea, include lychee, include, kind of local fruits, and taste preferences. I think, that's a very strong evolution within the ice cream industry. And we've had many people, start to expand in that way. But I think, many people thought either people don't care and you make very cheap ice cream, they don't really care what's inside it, or they want the international brand name. And we really took the risk to say, we can build this locally. We can build this according to local tastes, and we can build this according to what people's health concerns are.
Great. As a leader in your entrepreneurial business and company, Mary, can you tell us a little bit about the challenges that you faced while building this business? Because, as any other business, it might have its own hiccups and glitches and, kind of like that. Because it sounds like everything was, you were very careful in selecting and consulting and being very local as well, and keeping in consideration the local component. But how was the journey to make it like such a great success?
Well, I mean, I think, the truth is any entrepreneurial journey is very much a roller coaster. And, our experience was not any different to that. I mean, now I live in DC and I spend all my days working with entrepreneurs and supporting them on their respective journeys. But, I see that from everyone's experience, which is, there are many challenges to make sure that you're setting up a factory that is going to perform very well. And there's a learning curve to understand what that actually means. We are sitting in a very strong market in which we needed to export to multiple countries. So there were, many hiccups in the context of making sure that we could understand what would be the regulations in order to make that happen, and what would be the right distribution partners on the cold chain in order to be able to make that happen. And there were shipments that were spoiled, and there were shipments that went through totally fine. There were, I think also trying to make sure what would be the right retail partners. I mean, we're pretty much a wholesaler of our own branded product. We did have scoop shops. We shut them down basically just before COVID, because Hong Kong's going through a major kind of social change, and that was deterring a lot of tourism. And our shops were basically, working. They were at universities, and they were also essentially at tourism shops. And so, I think when tourism went from 69 million people a year down to 3 or 4 million people a year, that impacts a lot of the retail and F&B industry in Hong Kong. So we needed to adjust after that. And that's fine. We did. I would say that's, there are significant journeys in the context of building a factory and being able to make sure you're growing into the right retail partners. But also, even as you think you have a good strategic plan and building out, for us, it was building a wholesale and in retail. Retail didn't end up being the right long-term strategy for us because the environment changed, and that's fine. We kind of adapted and got different types of clients. But yes, it's always a journey. The real question is, how do you deal with the certain circumstances and continue to evaluate how you can grow your business?
It is a business at the end of the day, even though it is such an amazing topic as ice cream. We have more questions from our audience. One says, how do entrepreneurs overcome a fear of failure? And how did you start your career? Which you kind of touched upon a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah, I think the truth is, I think you just have to exercise that muscle of understanding that things are challenging for the moment, but you're going to attempt to resolve them. And your attempt to resolve them might be correct and they may not be correct. But what's most important is that you continue to move forward and that it doesn't stall you as a business. And so the more I see that, I found it with my own experience and the entrepreneurs that I work with, the more that you come up with, you look at the problem at hand and you try to find a solution and you actually do something about it, even though knowing this may not be the final solution for it, the more you're able to bounce back with challenges. And it doesn't always work. I should say that, some entrepreneurs, it's too much for them. Basically there's this roller coaster of dealing with significant challenges every day. Like we dealt with a very changed social environment within Hong Kong. And in fact, my original partners decided it was too stressful for them. So they decided to leave the business and just basically try to live carefree, which is understandable. But basically for them, it was, they didn't take the stress very well, and it made them physically sick. And so they ran it too deep. And so I think over time, you need to be able to ride the wave with not necessarily having your whole life feel destroyed on this. You need to be able to deal with the challenges of your business in order to be able to make it successful.
Got to keep a balance there, right?
Yes, you really do. It is, there's a lot on your mind, and it's exciting and thrilling and also very scary at some points. But the truth is you need to be able to manage through all of those things with pretty much a very strong can-do attitude.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Someone is asking, is it hard to develop a new recipe of ice cream for making a new type of flavor?
I don't think no, there's lots of different flavors. I think the thing is that we found, though, it's not, it's not necessarily just about what I like or just about what kind of my head production manager likes. It's really about how does it test within the market that we're trying to serve and how many people like it, so we can, really keep it as part of the main portfolio of flavors. So we continue to test new flavors, and sometimes people are very receptive to it, and sometimes people don't care that much. So I think the important thing is to continue to innovate. For us, innovation is also about how are we offering, a product with less sugar? How are we offering a product that might necessarily have a unique flavor profile within the market that we're sending it to? And it's a little bit of an experimenting. Sometimes people really take on to flavor, and sometimes people don't care too much. But we have found that it also is not necessarily about flavor. It's also about color. It's also about texture. It's about sweetness levels, about tartness levels. We actually had brought our product, we went to a trade show in China and brought, I think maybe even 10 flavors, really to give lots of samples. Of course, sitting in a trade show in China for 3 days, you're going to have tens of thousands of people to try your product, which is fantastic. But what the feedback we got was that people were very concerned about our strawberry flavor. And a lot of the reason for that was because most people were coming from they were coming from products that were basically dyed pink. And so it wasn't a natural strawberry look, in the context. It was a very kind of unique look to it, which in people's heads made them and reinforced the strawberry flavor. So people initially were very concerned about our strawberry and said, it's not pink enough. I can't taste the flavor, blah, blah, blah. So we took that feedback, and then the next time we went back to that trade show, we didn't actually change the amount of strawberries. We didn't change the sweetness level. We just mixed it. And so that flavor, that color was more dense, and people loved it. And in fact, we were very, people would try strawberry and we'd say, oh God, tell us, what do you think? What do you think about the strawberry? I said, it's just strawberry. It's just normal strawberry. But for us, it was a really reminder that you think a lot about one aspect of the product as far as the flavor profile, but the truth is people really even taste through their eyes. Sometimes they really taste with the texture. And so you need to be able to hit all of those issues for the client in order for them to be satisfied. And perhaps our market is unique in that we're also dealing with some really heavy concerns on milk safety and egg safety, because there's been a lot of milk products which have absolutely been unhealthy for the market. And so that's the health, basically people are very concerned about how can I trust you as a company, and are you giving me a product that I can really feel comfortable giving to my children? So that sense and that concern is a little bit heightened within our market. So we have to make sure that they are feeling that visually it's okay and taste-wise it's okay as well.
It's a huge responsibility, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of our viewers is asking, how has COVID-19 changed your business model?
Yeah, like I say, I think our home market is within a very strong tourism community. I mean, Hong Kong is a community of 7 million people on paper. But we're, normally we'd have nearly 70 million people coming through the city for work or for pleasure. So, our F&B market has been, is normally very dependent on those types of numbers. China and Hong Kong have taken a zero, COVID policy stance, and therefore, and with lots of quarantine periods, therefore, absolutely, F&B. A lot of our F&B clients have shut down. Most people are shopping a lot more within the grocery stores. We service a local airline called Cathay. They have, they went through a period of having to reduce a substantial number of their flights. That seems to have turned around recently from what we can tell. But, so we definitely had the tourism market was gone, the F&B market, the hotel market. Those areas were non-starters. But we are seeing, and we've seen it also replicated in other big markets such as Shanghai and Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Yeah. But we are, and then the other part about it, of course, was logistics. So any export, we export by sea. A lot of the ports were heavily influenced by lots of backlog, and very difficult to be backlogged with a frozen product, and lots of backlog in the context of at the ports. A lot of that storage facility was also built, was at capacity, and lots of trucks were at capacity. A lot of people were out of the workforce or were being quarantined for periods. So yeah, that has been an unusually tough period to get product to our overseas customers, and then to deal with a lot less people coming through our home market. But we adapt, and we're starting to see some more traffic coming to the city now.
Great. Before I move on to the next question, there is a feedback from one of our viewers saying, "Love your story and your journey. We started making ice cream at home and slowly grew our business. Best of luck." So people that try their own initiatives at business in different ways. Another question is, what is the most important thing in the leadership from your experience?
Well, I mean, I really found with our own team that a lot was continuing to make sure that we were engaging our employees in a way that got them excited about their job. So we probably are not alone in that we employ people that are, I mean, we actually have one lady who's a senior lady who's lovely, and we're really glad she's kind of spending her retirement with us, but she's the mother of one of our former employees. But generally our staff would, are under, they're probably, the oldest probably are in their mid 30s. And so we were kind of in our late 20s, mid 30s range. A lot of globally people are seeing that workforce is looking for some change to their responsibilities. Very difficult to keep somebody in the same role for a long period of time without mixing it up. So we've really needed to make sure that we're continuing to figure out how people can evolve their roles in ways that are meaningful to the business, but also very meaningful to them. We've continued to look for continuing education opportunities and sponsored those. So I think, really when I look at this Happy Cow experience in particular, it's been a lot about continuing to communicate about what's really important for the business in order to thrive and survive, but also being able to understand what can the people that are working with you that are very dedicated to the business, how can you continue to inspire them to build their own career within the company, and how are you supporting them in that process?
Yeah, great. Someone is asking if you can describe your key principles of your corporate, but always on the culture side.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what kind of led to this initially, but we have a very diverse group of people that work for us. So, I mean, not only culturally diverse in the context, we have people that are, Hong Kong people, we have people that are mainland China people, we have people that are actually Ecuadorian and Filipino. So, I mean, and I should also, we have some transsexuals that work for us as well. And like I mentioned, we have an older woman who's a part of our team. So, overall, the most important thing for us has been making sure that we're very accepting of everyone and really treating each other very professional. And that makes people feel really comfortable about coming in and thriving within their jobs and feeling that they're a part of an institution that really respects how they're living their life and absolutely incorporates them into our team. So that's been really number one, is making sure that everybody feels not only comfortable and respected by their coworkers, but also that, we're kind of trusting and investing in them, continue to thrive as individuals. And so I think that's one big thing. The other thing that's probably not very much historically a part of a Chinese office is really inspiring people to communicate about their ideas about how we can continuously improve. And so it's, we definitely want to give direction about how we want to challenge ourselves to try new things. But a lot of that also is trying to incorporate everyone else to, give us feedback about how we need to potentially change the layout of packing or assembly, or essentially how we're really communicating with our clients, and what could be product development that's really important to people.
Great. And now I have a question that has come from different viewers, which is the same question. What is the flavor of the ice cream that you like the best?
Oh, I like chocolate. I mean, listen, I think sometimes, I love our chocolate in particular. I don't necessarily go out and buy chocolate from other brands, but for me, our chocolate is just that perfect balance of chocolate and sweetness and just comfort food. There's some wonderful local flavors. I'm not sure how much people are aware, but durian is an incredible fruit from Asia, and that's another favorite of mine, which we'll never have here. But I think more universal. What we find is that mint chocolate chip is actually one of the best sellers. And I find that that's also a good one, but chocolate.
Great. Someone is asking if you have ever thought about your own ice cream academy, like Hamburger's University.
Yeah, it's a good question. We haven't done that. I mean, our facility, I mean, what we did initially when we, had essentially more capacity than needed, and we did some tours. We brought schools in and classes in and really taught the kids how we were making ice cream, and gave them opportunity to taste as well. And so I think we did do the school tours, but basically then we kind of we're not really set up as a showroom, so that they kind of canceled that out. But no, we haven't thought about it as a continued education for people outside of the local school system.
Do the factory workers get unlimited scoops of ice cream?
We don't necessarily have a hard policy or a policy one way or another, but people are very much welcome to take ice cream home with them.
Okay.
I think in fact the answer is yes, but the reality is I think people are they're very interested in trying new flavors and getting opinions, but I don't think their freezers are stacked with our products. I think they're pretty done by the end of the day.
Right. Someone is asking if you do you have a Chinese person as one of your co-founder in your company, and how do you find the way to fit in with the Chinese mindset and mentality in business?
Yeah, all of the partners are my original partners are American, and actually they didn't speak Chinese very fluently. I have a background. I studied Chinese language and policy, political history and literature, et cetera, in school. So I'd kind of been schooled with some background, but after my first founding partners left, then yes, I do have one local partner now, which has been helpful. He's very Americanized, I should say. Was kind of schooled through college in the U.S. and worked in New York for a while. But for the most part, in Hong Kong, we most of our team are actually, by number, most of our team are Hong Kong people. So that's been incredibly helpful. But definitely when we go into Taiwan and South Korea and mainland China, a lot of it is, language is essential. I'd say also, I mean, I was in Hong Kong for almost 20 years. So I think we've seen that there's a significant transition, particularly in Greater China, to be very nationalistic. So it's very important that we are respecting that people are, we're really talking about that we're a Hong Kong company. We're grown in, we're started in Asia. We're an Asian run company. But and our focus is really there. We're not looking to expand into other parts of the world. We just want to serve that market really well.
Right. Do you think the industry of ice cream will see a huge change in the future, or will it keep, be safe and it's a pretty safe business?
Well, I mean, the issues I think that people are facing now are, there's huge, I mean, particularly here in the US, and I'm imagining in Europe and otherwise, we're having huge changes. Well, I mean, also in China, we're having huge changes in prices for logistics. So cold storage logistics, cold storage, for whether that's transportation or storage, the prices have doubled, if not tripled. So even getting cups or, kind of getting your packaging materials tremendously different. So, that the price of operating is really come up. I think depending on your raw materials, you're potentially seeing changes in the prices for those just on, global inflation issues. So, those things I think are relatively temporary, but I think they could be a very medium-term challenge for a lot of the businesses. But what, I think it depends on your market. I mean, basically, in Asia, what we're seeing is people being more attracted to more premium ice creams and more better for you ice creams. That's kind of where the real growth is. A kind of more generic, cheap ice cream that you might have at a convenience store that is kind of a steady market, but it's not really a sexy market, if you will. The real exciting part is really about how are you differentiating on kind of the retail experience? How are people kind of coming in? What are they getting? What kind of toppings or which form is the ice cream actually coming in, and how is that as an experience? Or what essentially is how premium are the ingredients that you're using? That's where we're really seeing the most growth and excitement. I think particularly here within the U.S. market, again, we're seeing a lot of they're looking for where are you sourcing your products, how transparent are you, can we really get excited about essentially, even if it's not a kind of low fat, low sugar product, but you're just using great ingredients. That's really where you're seeing the biggest growth.
Great. Another question says, or another viewer says, it's incredible how everything is made and processed to get to local markets. Can you tell more about this path in your journey?
Well, maybe I don't fully understand the question, but I would say that
I guess adapting your business into the local markets and trying to adapt to their culture, to their taste, to their ingredients, to their, as you've mentioned earlier, to their local fruit, which might be different from the ones in the US. So how does your business kind of adapt the local culture and the local company?
I mean, we have to, in order to be able to sell our products in the context of, we know that if we basically use kind of US levels of sugar, that people would say it's too sweet. So, I think that kind of feedback over years has helped us understand that people just have different taste profiles. And so we're not pushing our agenda other than we're listening a lot more as to what issues really face. A lot of our flavor inspiration comes from customer requests. We continue to get people asking us to try new flavors. I think, the other thing is we do look as to what are kind of best sellers within the industry and try to make sure we're participating in that. But I think overall, like I say, we're dealing in markets where people are becoming more excited about what it means to, support a company that's really thinking about their interests and really is serving what is important to them as a consumer. And I think overall we see I work a lot in consumer and here in the US, and I would say overall we see that customer tastes are becoming very consistent. Customer concerns on food are becoming very consistent globally. But overall, I think, you really do need to, especially if you're dealing with markets that have, more than 1 billion people in them, you really do need to think about what is really important to them. So for an example, to be more specific on this, you can do it on the product side, but you can also do it on the marketing side. And so what we find is we have lots of, point of sale statements that could really kind of get people excited. And we tend to say that we're vegan, so we have no animal products. And that tends to feed to people's concerns about the environment. And some vegans, but obviously like globally, it tends to be more than 3 to 5% of the market or the populace. So it's always a minority, but you probably have more people concerned about the environment overlapping on that. We say we're dairy free, which is important to many people. We also say we're low sugar, and we also say we're cholesterol free. But when we went to Shanghai, and we'd even point out all of those things, we would look to see what was the first thing that people would respond to. And what we saw is that in Shanghai, people were very concerned about they were very interested and very excited, I should say, about sugar levels. So for us, we would always lead with the marketing and saying we're the kind of the same product, but we're not changing our product necessarily for you, but the way that we're explaining our product to you is understanding what's most important to you out of all these things we just listed to you. Whereas when we went to Taiwan and we listed the same things, people would say, oh, you're animal product free. We're really interested in this. And it's really stems from, there's a lot of Buddhists within Taiwan. And so that's kind of a bit more of a resonant issue. And then really, I would say, in southern China, we found that people were very concerned about the cholesterol. And that really led into, the numbers are skyrocketing. So I think, and in Hong Kong as well, people were very, very concerned about the cholesterol issues. And so for us, they were cholesterol free. That was really important. So I think there's two sides to that. As one is you might adapt your product to fit local issues, but the bigger issue for us was making sure that we were adapting how we're telling our story to what matters most in different markets and different cities.
Right. One viewer is asking if the digital world, the IT of today, can interfere or help with your business. I think it's about promotion, maybe online, and the whole idea of, the social media and being.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I didn't, yes, it's definitely, bottom line is it's been a huge benefit. And we've kind of seen that in multiple ways. So one way, and what I didn't actually mention before, is one of the things we did as soon as we hit quarantine in Hong Kong in particular is we did a lot of home delivery. And so kind of direct to consumer sales and making sure that we're routing that through, digitally, we're marketing that digitally. We're able to get into people's, we weren't being able to kind of, meet them at events as much. So we were going to their homes. And so, but we needed to do that as a remote experience. We weren't really able to have human to human contact in many ways. So, that was a very strong issue. That was very strongly helpful within the COVID period. When also when we opened our first shop was actually within a scoop shop within a college. So the university themselves has, some F&B area, and they invited us. The students were asked, they have a student committee in which they invite brands to open a shop within that area. And we were voted to do that. But what we wanted to do was also be able to offer fair prices to the students. So we actually did a crowdfunding digitally in order to be able to help pay for the renovation costs to open that store and keep our prices down. That wasn't hugely successful. And leveraging off that was not only helping to tell our story about what we're going to create and let people know where we were going to be, but it also helped us get a lot of community support and long-term community support. So, there was a digital solution to that problem as well. But and for sure, we would not be able to market in the areas that we are without having a digital solution for that. There really isn't I don't even know basically at this stage how we would market on old school levels, brick and mortar or anything else that newspapers, et cetera, all of that within the markets we deal with are all digital. There's very little print. It's very old school. All that old school advertising options are not really available to us anymore.
Well, that was a segue to our next question, which is about what is your favorite market analytics or strategy development tool? Well,
it depends on the market, because what's interesting for us is different search engines are used within different markets. So Yahoo, Bing is very essential for us within Hong Kong, and Google, and being able to use the analytics backing those is really essential. Whereas in China, we're using basically local search engine analytics. We would also say in Taiwan, we see people being very active more on Facebook than we do on other social media platforms. So essentially our advertising dollars and kind of our understanding, putting content out and getting engagement basically is taking place more in that platform than it is on kind of other search engine advertising and analytics. So yeah, it very much depends on the market, but obviously we're dealing with markets that can be quite insular. That's probably another thing that we've seen change, and can exclude some foreign social media platforms, whether intentionally or just that's just not where the numbers are. And so, Google's blocked in China, so that's less helpful than the local search engine platforms.
How easy is it, Mary, to move your business from Asia to another continent?
It's not easy. I mean, I think it's very much about the integrity of the product and making sure that you're creating, you're able to produce the product in a way that you're happy with, that, you have the right power needs, you have the right ingredients, you can trust essentially who's making the product, the quality you're very happy with. So that's something that's, that's at the core of what we do. The other side of it, in the context of distribution partners, we were able to grow into some new markets relatively easy, but they always had a connection back to our home market. So, most of the grocery store chains that we expanded into always had a shop in Hong Kong, but they had more shops in China, or they had more shops in Taiwan. So because they're just bigger markets. Taiwan is 24 million people, China is over 1 billion people, right? So, but normally it was a leverage off. People had come to Hong Kong and seen it and then invited us to participate. So that was helpful because we already knew some basis of essentially what it would be to work with them. And we already had some really good long-term contacts from those organizations. But I would say we had spent some time looking at the European market just because it was inbound request. And we found that very difficult to find production partners and distribution partners where we felt like we were being treated fairly. And then also we felt like the integrity of the product would be what we'd be happy with.
Wow. On another more fun kind of question is, in your business, have you ever tried to create ice cream statues like they do with the ice statues?
Oh, no. It sounds like a very good idea, a very great event idea. We are dealing in markets where the temperature is normally pretty high. And so, the ability to keep that product cold for a long period of time would be very limited. Or we maybe only have 2 months out of the year that we could. So it's a great idea, but perhaps in another geography. But also it isn't, we're pretty focused on, being able to produce a product that we can replicate and get out there in numbers. And so, it's that would be a lot of man hours and probably less income, but it's a good kind of excitement piece.
And that would be on a special order, I guess.
It would be a special order, but
or
yeah, I think
certain event or something.
Yeah.
What is the most delicious ice cream that you've ever eaten in your life, apart from your companies?
It's hard to, it's hard to limit it. I really like kulfi in India. That's a really incredible mixture of flavors that I had not had before, and I don't think it's replicated very many places. So, I think it's more about that kind of local experience. What else would I say? Of course, which sure a lot of people have done in Russia that might be on here, going down to Italy and being able to try the gelato and pistachio, just those raspberries and flavor, just the fresh flavors and flavors that are very related to local products. Those are really hard to beat, Yeah.
As a leading woman entrepreneur in your company, Mary, what is the advice that you want to give to the young entrepreneurs out there who are trying to either think about opening a business, and not ice cream related, but any kind of startup? What would be the advice number one that you're going to give them and kind of, tell them to have in mind before they take this journey?
Well, I think the big thing in my mind about exploring initially is really, is your product idea, is it financially viable? Are you going to be able to produce it for a price and make enough of a margin to be able to pay salaries for, marketing and salaries for yourself and, that kind of thing? Can it grow in that way? I think that's one of the things that I tend to see a lot of people get very excited about creating a new product. But the truth is that, the cost to produce the product is $8 and the consumer only wants to pay $6. So, it's very difficult to make that kind of thing work. I also would say it's really important to know your client, basically who is it that's going to buy it, and what are you telling them that's making them how are they basically responding to your product idea? Whether that's, you can always do kind of a small test group to make sure you're doing it. Sometimes trying to get outside of your friends and family is really important to get kind of honest reviews about things. But overall, I would say it's really about financial viability about the idea, and really trying to think about what is your, some of these things can be passion projects, and they basically, provide some supplemental income, and that's fine. I don't really represent that. What I represent is companies that we're really trying to get to significant sales, so we would have a strategic exit. That's where I'm focused. And so when I work with entrepreneurs that have that same mindset, it's very focused about how are we going to, how big do we think this market is, and how, how are we connecting with that customer, and how are they going to become ambassadors for our product?
Great. Do you think that restyling or repurposing your promotion plays a role in the current business? I think this is the question from one of our viewers, but I think it is about the repurposing and restyling your promotion of your business. Does it help when you see that it is like it's going a fine line, it's kind of hit an impasse, and then you want to do something about it? Restyling or repurposing the business, will it help in any way?
Yeah, the truth is, if you look back on, if you look at the McDonald's logo in 1960 versus 1980 versus 2000, they're all very different. And then even if you look essentially in, how they were servicing the customer, it's very different. So yes, I think it's really important to continue to evolve. I think we see now a customer that's very interested in having, delivery to their homes. They want to have good disclosure about what you're doing. They want to have good disclosure about, essentially who's behind the product and what their story is. So overall, I would say, yes, we have definitely found that, we couldn't exist if we just stayed as kind of a, originally serving health food stores and a couple of vegan restaurants. If we existed that way, we'd never been able to afford staff. So overall, it was really important for us to start to be able to serve grocery stores and make sure that we were adapting our labeling to do that, and absolutely being able to figure out ways to tell our story to the greater populace other than kind of smaller vegan communities. And so, and then we really found that there was an opportunity to go into to go into scooping shops, and that was super exciting. And frankly, it was very profitable for us. So it actually gave us a lot of income to be able to start to experiment, to pay for trade shows and start to experiment with more export markets. And that was really essential for us to continue to grow the business. Hong Kong is a relatively small market. So if we just focused on that, we'd be dead, because, now it's really shut down during COVID, and there's no tourists, and people are staying in their homes. And, there really isn't there that would have, if we would not have continued to expand in different ways, kind of evolve in different ways, we would not be able to survive anymore.
Great. Have you ever borrowed any idea from your big competitors?
I'm trying to think of a way in particular. I would say that we don't have anybody who's on our, who's basically approaching the ice cream market in the same way we are. But so we do look at lots of different companies and how they're able to help the customer. I think we kind of look at inspiration for that. We do definitely look at the way Haagen-Dazs is approaching the consumer in different ways. They're, participating in their lives, or, whether it's going to movie theaters or, those sorts of things, and kind of thinking if that's the right distribution or retail partner for us. So in the context of thinking about, I think we're constantly looking for inspiration about what are ways in which great companies are continuing to service their clients, and trying to think if that's appropriate for us in some way.
Great. We always love to see, women in leading roles, and especially trying when they're leading their startups or their businesses. Do you know of other successful women who are, leading their companies, and not necessarily in the ice cream, business, but in other, kind of business fields?
Yeah, I mean, I work with them all day. That's really where I'm focused, is continuing to assist minority entrepreneurs, and those are defined as, gender minority in the context of there's more men that have run businesses than women, and so and race minority, sexuality minority. I mean, all of those things are really important about supporting. But overall, yes, there are a number of really strong entrepreneurs, and I mentor a lot of female entrepreneurs with the idea of let's continuing to make them to be success stories, and they can tell their stories, and also support other entrepreneurs. But yes, there's some incredible people out there. I think the biggest thing is, and I highly encourage people to try to kind of really see if you're a hidden entrepreneur, basically, really think of an idea and see if essentially how you bring it alive, and see if it's something that you want to explore in your lives. I think there's an incredible amount of talent out there, and just encouraging people to try and take the first step, and then reach out to mentors to help you take the next step.
Well, that's great, because sometimes they're just behind the scenes and they're kind of doing the whole work, and they're kind of like keeping, the business afloat. And it is wonderful to be able to support them and then give them the whole support they need to come and become young leaders, or just try
Right.
to be able to stand behind their businesses and make them successful.
Yeah, I mean, I see all different ages of people. I mean, I really, I work with entrepreneurs that are in their late 60s, and I work with entrepreneurs that are in their late 20s. I think the reality is they're showing up every day and pushing their business forward. And so it's very much about less talk, more action, and very much of doing something you think will be really meaningful within the industry.
Absolutely. Mary, any final thoughts or messages that you want to give to our viewers today?
Well, thank you very much for the time and the opportunity to speak with you. I'm a big proponent of encouraging people to be innovative and to try to continue to evolve any industry, to be a better servant of the consumer, and continue to help us move forward. I think, there's lots of examples of how products are no longer useful to us, and we've adapted because people have spent their time and their resources and pooled money and mentorship to help us move forward. And it's an important part of every geography and every industry. So I encourage all people to try some entrepreneurial venture within their life. And not all of these things are going to work out, but it will definitely, every experience that you have as a part of that, you will leverage in another part of your life. It's an incredibly part of anyone's journey.
Mary, thank you so much for being with us today, and best of luck to you and to your company and to your future endeavors.
And to you. Thank you.